maybe now if Blake, Mr. Watson, you could come up here. Could you kind of go through all of these, the schedule? Because the only one I really know is glyphosate. We've heard that so many times and Roundup, but all these other things, if I'm going to vote in favor of something, I sure as hell would like to know what I'm voting on, right? I mean, because I don't know any of these things. Could you just maybe go one by one and tell me what, try to
that'd be
help
great.
me relate to something? Yeah, why don't anybody who can provide help would be greatly appreciated.
No, that's fair, that's fair. Okay. What you
Yeah.
want to take here?
To be perfectly honest with you, Council Member Chung, dicamba I'm most familiar with because of its use recently.
Which one is that?
Dicamba.
Is it under active ingredients, chemical family, or brand? Okay.
Active ingredient.
Oh, right there.
the
Okay.
second one.
Okay.
Yeah, and just to kind of also generalize before I start breaking bit by bit, is just one row is active chemical, and there's a chemical family, and then there's the commercial name, and there's a reason for that, because if you ban something, it's really easy for a chemical company to change it by a little molecule shift, but it still falls under the same chemical family. So if we want, we could mince hairs about every single little chemical and
But what
product,
are they? Just
but just generally,
try to help
these are all herbicides that have been
Okay.
used in the state of Hawaii. And that's basically what I use as a basis, like herbicides that are synthetic-based herbicides.
all relating to plants.
All herbicides would be only vegetation management.
Right. Okay.
So I mean, that's the basis of how I created it. It was created just because it seemed like the most. Anyway,
And
the full.
are all of these
way to
on
do
the
it.
market right now?
Some of them
Like
may not be.
which ones?
I think there's a paraquat on here.
Paraquat. That's
There's
gone.
things on here that aren't used anymore, but it's
That's illegal, right? Paraquat.
yeah.
Yeah.
But leave it to chemical companies to be like resurrecting an ancient chemical a little bit and finding a way to reintroduce it to the market. So just to cover that base, I put everything in there.
If I could, again, I am not a scientist, but since you're looking for some way to identify with any of these, I can give you some, just glean a little bit of light onto just a few of these. Dicamba, like Blake said, this one is in the news a lot lately because of the way that it volatilizes. It's a huge deal, especially in central United States, because people are using it. There's dicamba-resistant crops right now, right? If you plant a dicamba-resistant soybean or corn, the farmer should be able to spray dicamba on his farm and kill all the weeds
So this
except
is
for
like
the crop.
for food crops. Then.
Well,
They use-
this is one way it's used. It's also
I mean,
used
not
in,
on food crops, but
Well,
to
yeah, it is
treat-
used on food crops because the corn is resistant to the dicamba.
Right.
So
I mean, it's to
Yes.
Control the weeds around.
not alone, but this is just anecdotally that'll give you a way to identify with this chemical. So it's in the news right now because when it heats up to a certain temperature, it volatilizes and the gases blow down to the next farmer. And if you don't have dicamba-resistant crops, you get crop damage because that dicamba kills not only just your
How about
weeds,
this?
but the crops.
How about this? Because I got to leave at 5:30, pick up my daughter.
Okay, that's sure, I'm done with that
and
one.
I don't care what you guys tell me today, I'm not going to be able to digest
Yeah.
it anyway. So
Okay.
how about from now until the next time, if you or Blake or Miss Vegas could just come up with some kind of description so
Great.
that I can understand what I'm voting on, because I'm going to be
Yes.
voting in favor of this
Can.
today. And, I'll tell you why. If it were a blanket prohibition against, for example, glyphosate or herbicides, then I would have a hard time. And I think we've dealt with that before. But this is something that's within the purview of what we do. It's the county, right, and our operations. One, we have our composting facility coming online. I talked to our environmental management person today, and we've all supported it here on the body. Yeah. And it was good news when actually Greg Goodell told me all systems are go. That's going to be huge in the, the grand scheme of things. So that's one reason. And I might forget some of the other reasons, but another one, which I haven't heard of too much, but I really think it could build communities by developing volunteerism. Yeah, people can go into the parks, they can have friends of the park, go over there, and because we're really talking about controlling weeds, really, right? So they can do that, and I think that's a good thing. You have to deal with the public employee unions, though, I think, on that one. But it's doable. And, since the last time we visited all of this, we've had some huge judgments, against Monsanto and others. And, that's something that we have to take into consideration as employers. I'm not saying that I totally agree with what the jury came up with, but it is what it is, right? And, whatever we can do to try to protect the taxpayers from undue liability, I think we have to do. Yeah, I gotta say something funny though, and that's only 3 things. I can't remember what the 4th thing was, but I really do want a little bit more explanation on these chemicals and things, because I gotta know what I'm voting on.
Every
right?
community grapples with this. In
Yeah.
that big list of communities that you've seen, people that have passed legislation, this is not, there are so many, that's probably old. They probably need to add a few communities to that list, but every community grapples with this situation. How do we define what's banned and what's not? So,
Oh, the 4th one, bees. I think everybody
Bees.
here knows how much I love bees. And my wife actually has this whole bitter melon patch, because she heard from her bee friend that it's really, bitter melons are really good for bees.
okay, noted.
Right? And so whenever I see the bees, I'm really happy. And, I just think, we have, what are those things, the colony collapse or whatever that's happening with the bees. I don't know if it's related to any of these chemicals. I really don't. But intuitively, it's possible, right?
Yeah.
And, we really do need bees. So that was the 4th thing. But I got to share this funny story. Because Sherry, I was upstairs, and I haven't been feeling too well, actually. And then, Sherry, who's a really nice person, she's kind of calling me out in a nice way, right, about how I had said one time that I put on all of these, the white garb, and, when I spray my herbicides, and, close all the doors, keep my kids inside, and stuff. And I have to admit, that's what I said. And, it could cut both ways, right? One, it's that maybe I'm being irresponsible. The other one is that I'm kind of wary of, what the hazards are. But for her to say that, and I'm saying this really in a good way, it's kind of like a lighthearted way. Her family owns a liquor store in Kona, right, which I went to, and I bought this special bottle of Hendrick's gin. It's a purple bottle. She said, this is a special bottle. I'm looking at this, examples of International Agency for Research on Cancer, carcinogenic classifications, glyphosate, category 2A. Higher than that, category 1, alcoholic beverages. I never heard her telling me, hey, but Aaron, I'm going to sell you this bottle of Hendrick's gin, but it's class 1 on the carcinogenic scale. I just had to make that comment. But yeah, I'll be voting in favor of it. But I would like, some of the Big Island invasive species concerns to be incorporated into, I can only make that request, and it's something I can't require, but I'd feel more comfortable if those things were put in there. Thank you.